Hello, everyone. A form finding tutorial. How do we do this magic? Let me share my screen and show you the magic, okay? Um, so this. Okay, so here we have this, fairly intricate piece, right? The key idea is you need a person 2 meters tall, but you have a lot of control over these points now. Lots of things you could do, and I'll show you how I did this. This one is particularly interesting in that the tetrahedra can extrude out or it can go into your structure. The size of these triangles is the limiting factor. We will use standard plywood, so we don't want gigantic pieces like this. This can be a wall down here, maybe timber, maybe concrete or masonry, but that gives us a lot of flexibility when we could play with that height. It gives us lots of flexibility, especially if the ground is not perfectly flat, such as at a botanical garden. Okay, so how do we do this? Step one is to lay out some points. So I'll go to the PowerPoint here and I think you'll see it better in the PowerPoint. Okay, so step one is just to lay out some points. I was going to move them. The three in one quadrant, three in another, three in another, three in another. And it doesn't really matter how big you are, but in the United States, we use feet. Everybody else's uses meters. Let's make it reasonably the footprint of the structure. You need 4 points for a triangle. 4 points for a triangle. You will remember that for the rest of your life. What is the fourth point? The fourth point will be controlled by these orange dots. These are on the ground plane right now, but a vertical line is passing through each orange dot. And then I put a point on the orange line. So I put a point on the orange line. That point is moving vertically, and the base point allows the whole line to move. That's why you need 4 points for each triangle. So rule number one in all XenaForms is that you must have two triangles that are not in the same plane. They cannot be coplanar. That's rule number one. It's very simple. Rule number one is that two triangles cannot be coplanar. Here we have 4 sets of two triangles. Very, very quick to do. Then I could lift up those bases. Remember those masonry walls that I put in, or timber or concrete? I lift up the bases. Now I put in a human being 2 meters tall, 6 feet tall, and we start to play with the size of the triangles such that they can be cut from a standard piece of plywood. And that's it. And then there's rule number two. So rule number two is build off of already stabilized points. Rule number one is two triangles that are not in the same plane. Rule number two, start building off of already previously stabilized points. I had 4 sets of two triangles. The crown, the highest point, is stable. It's as good as being on the ground. I drew two pink triangles, not a quadrilateral, but two pink triangles. Make your big triangles pink because they will disappear. Those are too big. And it's a sign for you that they started on three previously stabilized points. That's huge. What you do next is totally up to you. So I found the centroid of the pink triangles. I found the centroid of the pink triangles. It doesn't have to be the centroid. You could put a point on the pink triangle. Then I drew a vertical line through that point. It doesn't have to be vertical, but I think it makes sense for it to be vertical. Then you guessed it. You put an orange dot on that line going through the centroids, and you hide, do not delete, but hide the pink triangles. You don't want them. So what you are doing is making that a tetrahedra. Instead of one big triangle, it's a tetrahedra, which is three triangles. I didn't put the last triangle in here just so you could see it. So the pink triangle has been made a tetrahedra, even though I did not close that side. And I think this is already beautiful. Very simple, very elegant, and stable. It is unconditionally stable. We're looking at it from the top here. Then, and I'll go to GeoGebra soon. The next time you see a big opening in your structure, realize it's time for a pink triangle. Anything really, really big. So make a triangle that's pink. It can be huge, and then make a tetrahedra. It doesn't have to be on the centroid, but I like it on the centroid. And here I was fancy. I put a sphere around those centroids, and then I put a black dot on that sphere so I could wiggle the line because the vertical line didn't make sense here. So I just had some fun with that line. And then I made a tetrahedra on that big pink triangle, and that big pink triangle is gone. You could pull it in and out. I'll show you how to do that in GeoGebra. And you just keep continuing. Here I made the base by those walls by just dropping verticals through my elevated points. I just lifted them up in GeoGebra. I'll show you that in a second. So this is timber or masonry or concrete. I love this. I think it's fantastic because it will be for benches and then it lifts the whole shell up so everything just becomes easier and it helps us with uneven slope of the soil. Absolutely, absolutely necessary for us. If nothing else, you could make it uniform as a grade beam, even if the soil is really flat or you're on a concrete plinth or pedestal. Even then, this black beam can just be something to keep the shell off the ground. So it's absolutely necessary. Bring it into GeoGebra 6 for STL files, the standard 3D printing file. Bring it into Rhino, shade it in Rhino. Then this part is controversial, but I think you should bring the STL file into ChatGPT and then have the robot look at it, either reinvent it, make it better, or simply put some dramatic lighting on it. Now you have a new idea, which is hopefully better than your original idea way back where, here, and then you start the whole cycle again. All right, let's go to GeoGebra and see how that works in in fast time, first of all. So obviously the person can move. These points all can move, all of them. There's some funny points here on the tetrahedra. This one moves along that line into the shell like that, which is super cool. Into the shell or out of the shell. The other black dot is on that sphere. Remember, I showed you that sphere? So this is controlling that line, which I think is super fun. The orange dots are the fourth point of the triangle, or the third, showing you in plan view where that apex is. And what you're really looking for is a beautiful form, of course, that's perfectly stable, but you want the segments to be such a size that it can be cut from a standard sheet of plywood. So here in the United States, that's 8 feet, right? So you could see right now this is 14 feet. This is too long, but I can change it, right? I can change it very easily and play with that size limitation. Obviously, the other way of overcoming the size problem is by doing the tetrahedra. The tetrahedra are very, very beautiful, but they require one, two, three um, stable points. All right, so how did I do this? So let me just save this as demo or something because I might make some errors here. So step one is in your model, I think some points. Doesn't matter where they are. Let's put them way out here. Just a couple points out here. Those are the 3 points that you need. Then the orange point. Remember what the orange point was. The orange point controls in plan view the position of the crown or the highest point of the two triangles. Some vertical lines in here, they could just be black. No, that was perpendicular line. And then the orange dot on these lines. I guess it doesn't. No, let's not make it orange. I was just thinking that why is it orange? Okay, let's just make it black. Okay, now the first set of triangles. So notice what that is. It's two triangles that are not in the same plane. And I could change the position of the crown and I could change the height of the crown. That's why we need 4 points for each triangle. All right, let's do the other ones really quickly. I don't think it's good to use symmetry at this point. I think it's too limiting. I think you want to have the freedom to play with these any way you want. I sound like the happy painter. Just play any way you want. Oops. There was a good oopsie poopsie there. Let me just show you what I did wrong. You don't want to do this. You might want to do this, but I did not want to do this. I accidentally used the orange for my oops. I'll show you what I mean here. Hang on. Uh, this forces that wall to be vertical. It has to be vertical. You could see they're vertical. And there's a case to be made. Well, maybe I do want vertical ones, but I think for now, don't do that. Don't use this orange one as part of the triangle. It's the plan view of the main triangle, right? Like that, see? Okay, so that's step number one. Then step number two is to take, I probably should have moved these over here. Let me move these over here. Oops. Just so they'll be kind of a little bit closer to each other. Notice I'm keeping it glued to the, oops, I guess I didn't keep it glued there, to the ground plane with these horizontal slides. Okay, I want these tripods sort of close to each other because now that's rule number one. You set up tripods, essentially three struts or two triangles. Now, rule number two, build off of previously stabilized nodes. So here I will use my pink triangle. This is stable, this is stable, and this is stable. That is rule number two. Build off of previously stabilized lines. Now this pink triangle will disappear. I don't want that there. So here, I think you could put it on the centroid, but actually I realized as I was filming this, I guess there's no need for it to be on the centroid. So I'll just drop a point on the pink triangle. You know, it could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be on the centroid, I guess. Yeah, okay. Just have fun. All right, now a line through there. It may as well be vertical. It may as well be vertical. And then a dot up here. Now that moves it in plan. So now there's going to be 4 points for the new triangles. One, here, you could see it. I'll just make it blue here. 4 points for each triangle. Uh, Let's remove it. Don't delete it. If you delete it, you kill everybody. Just hide it. You can hide all the lines later, but these are kind of traumatic, I think, right? I mean, they're kind of shocking. Now, you cannot make a tetrahedra on this one. You just can't. Why? This point at the top is only stable if that triangle is there. If you hide that triangle, this point is not stable. So you can only do a tetrahedra on three previously stabilized points because the triangle that you will use to make the tetrahedra is disappearing. Okay? I think that's it for today. You could already see some drama, and then I guess there's one more thing I should do. If you see something that's really big, like this, I would say this can be a pink triangle. This, because those 3 points are stable. Now you can tessellate off of this. You could just put off a point on here. And oh, I'll show you that trick with the sphere. It was kind of cute, I thought. You put a sphere around that point. Doesn't matter how big it is. And then you put a black dot on that point. Has to be black. And then a line. Yeah, a line, sorry, a line through that black dot. Let me hide the sphere. So this controls that and whoops. And this point is here. So now you can see I got that line spinning around, which is crazy cool. And then I could tessellate that one. Not pink, because the pink is going to disappear. And I'm going to hide the pink. Don't delete it. Hide it. Whoop. And that is just so fun that you could pull it in like this or out. That is so cool. Oh, and you could change the location of the black dot essentially, right? Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I lost my black dot. Anyway, I hope this all was fun and you make something beautiful. All right. I think I am done. See you soon.